right, what we doing?
We're cranking up the lights now, so everyone can see. It's all happening right now. We're gonna make you believe. It's about to get crazy. It's about to go down. It's about to get crazy. It's about to get...
Welcome to Sunday Recap. I'm your host, JB, present in beautiful sunny South Florida. And do we have an amazing show for you guys? And this is the iconic Espinosa Studios. I hope you guys are doing well today. Happy Sunday. And we're going to be bringing on a special guest. I don't want to keep them in the green room long because we have so much to discuss, and you guys are going to be learning so much today. So without further ado, I'm going to be bringing on the one, the only, Orlando Espinosa. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. How you doing, JB?
I am doing great, my friend.
I'm glad that we live in South Florida. That's all I can say.
we could definitely do with a little bit of snow, right?
Yeah, just a tad bit. But this weather that we're having is phenomenal, so I have no complaints. You know, I think we need to send some of this up to all of our friends that live, past the Panhandle.
Yeah, but we got to skip where Chrissy lives at. That's the only place we got to skip. We could go like New York, we could go to Chicago, everything, but where Chrissy lives at, that little bubble circle where her shop is at and everything, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.
It is, it's like Jack Frost needs to stay there.
So for the people who don't know who you are, let's get them a little introduction.
So I am actually Orlando Espinosa, one of five. I'm actually number 4. I have 3 older sisters, and then my younger brother is Eric Espinosa. But everybody knows that I'm the favorite in the family, but that's all right. He may be the youngest, but I'm the favorite. But my actually the great thing about what it is that I do within our family is that I am the one that comes in and unifies when it comes to information and so forth. And I think it was always that kid that I love content. I love information. I love just to chit chat and talk within the family. And for those of you that know my brother, he's a little bit more jovial and happy and always has jokes and always has an opportunity to highlight. I tell people he's got a better personality than I do, which is a good thing. But I do believe that as part of what it is that we do within the Espinosa family, it's aside from us and the nieces and nephews and all of that, we are a close-knit group of people. And the aspect of why a lot of the things that we do is all family oriented, because family is important to all of us.
So I'm trying to figure out where to get started. Let's start with your life, because you have a very different upbringing. You came on the clash of 2 different helms, your mother and your father. They both, one was a church and one was a cigar. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is that we had a great upbringing because we are very well-balanced people. Because I tell people, my mom took us to church and taught us about Jesus. And then we'd come home and my dad would teach us how to cuss, gamble, play cards, and smoke cigars. So I tell people I will cuss you out in the name of Jesus and keep walking. But the overall goal is that it actually it helped us be the people that we are, that we get along with everybody. We're not here to condemn, judge. It's just to understand that we have to have a balance. And I think that what happens with a lot of families, they don't have that balance because they have too much of one thing or not enough of another. And for us to be able to come in and say that we have a foundation, that everything that we do is based on the upbringing, but everything that we do is based around family. It's based on family and enjoying our time and laughing and enjoying, but accepting the differences and the similarities. So I think it's interesting because when we sit down and we talk about that, or even when I share about that, people are amazed because you can have a more in-depth conversation. And I'm glad you asked that question because I'm about substance and having more of an in-depth conversation because I love to know the background of people and why people do the things that they do and why they behave the way that they behave and love the things that they love and so forth. And it's an evolution. And for us, it's just an evolution as family that we may think differently and process things differently, but we're still unified because of the upbringing that we have.
Yeah, but you took that a little bit further in the sense of when you went to college, you started tinkering in a particular field, which is developed under the nature of understanding people.
Yeah, yeah. Well, actually, when I was in college, I started. My degree was initially psychology. I thought I wanted to be a psychologist because I can look at people and know exactly where they're coming from, but I can look at people and know exactly what it is that they need. I don't complicate life because I think life itself is overtly complicated, and for me, it's about simplifying it. So I thought I wanted to be a therapist, and then I realized that problems just bored me. A lot of people love the aspect of, and I always gave good advice because I'm giving advice the same way that it would be applicable to myself. So while I was in college, I came in one day and I said, okay, well, let me sit back and let me see what it is that I want to do. And it just changed. I won't go back into the background story, but I shifted and changed, and I went the route of communication and nervous. By nature, did not like speaking in front of people. By nature, it was one of the hardest things for me. And people tell me that that's not true. I said, but it is. But I remember having to take a class on public speaking, and I had no idea what it was that I was going to talk about. And I had to do a tribute. So the tribute was more so my parents and what it was that why my parents were extremely special. And I talked about the journey and everything that they endured coming from Cuba. And I was a nervous wreck. And as I spoke, I looked up and my teacher and my fellow classmates were crying because it was emotional. And I think that as nervous as I was, they were actually hearing something different. And I realized the power of words and the power of what it is that we do with the words that we're given. And that's why I sat back and realized that life isn't overtly complicated. If you wrong someone, apologize. If someone wrongs you, forgive them. I mean, it's not that complicated. And I think that we overcomplicate life because everybody thinks that they're going to get out of here alive. And that's not the reality. It's simple. Get along with other people. So that's where I changed. And then I laugh because my father says, yeah, this is my son, the one that gets paid to talk.
Yeah, well, in a sense, you've become an instructor and you've taught at several highly notable places like Miami Bayside Foundation, U.S. Southern Command, Homestead Air Force Base, Overtown Connect, and Jim Morin Institute. So, I mean, you have a plethora of opportunities to speak. So tell us a little bit about how you got into that realm of speaking.
Yeah, well, I think that one of the things that I look at is that, as I said earlier, and how everything is connected. People complicate things. People complicate information. Sometimes they read things. And when they read things, the first thing is that they overthink it. So what did I do? I actually started simplifying information. And as an educator, I used to work with middle, high school, and college students. And back then I had my own business. I was running permits, working with all the different municipalities. And I took a job working full time. I actually was spending more time there than I did in my own business. But I love the aspect of educating, and it was simplifying and knowing right off the bat, well, this is what you need. This is what you should do. And I realized that a lot of businesses tend to overthink and overcomplicate, and a lot of them don't scale because they're focusing on the wrong things. The moment that they actually take an assessment and look at their business, and this is where I come in and make an assessment and realize what are the needs, because a different pair of eyes So for me, I come in and I design curriculum, I design programs with a lot of these organizations that you mentioned, because it's how do we help businesses scale? Number one, they feel alone. They are lonely because they don't have other people to work with. That's why the aspect of a community of other business owners is vital, because we think differently, but it's also understanding what resources are out there. What is it that you need? And for me, it just became simple. It became simple where I can teach on anything, and not because I'm a know-it-all. It's just that in my brain, I still have elements of things that I've heard, so I can come in and talk about those things. And that's where these organizations that I work with, it's coming in and building the rapport relationships, and then dissecting the information, simplifying it, and then coming in and saying, hey, Jerome, this is the game plan. This is what you need to do. Because the overall goal is for people to stop working in their business and start working on their business.
Yes, sir. So is that one of the aspects that led you to become the first national spokesperson for Sallie Mae?
Well, the thing is that, as I mentioned, I was working with an organization here in South Florida while I had my company, Aspira, and I went in, I did workshops. I was doing workshops on financial literacy, how to plan, prepare, and pay for college. And the aspect of it, I just went in and I did presentations in a couple of states, and they designed an entire program around what it was that I was doing. They never interviewed anybody. They called me directly, and I went with, and they designed the program. And then even with the things that I did for Sallie Mae, we launched. I was a spokesperson for 3 years consecutively, and I just traveled from city to city, state to state. The first year was in 2004, and we launched in California, and I was on a bus. And the bus, actually, 45-foot bus, and it was the tour bus from Crosby, Stills, and Nash. And I went from California to Florida in a matter of 3.5 months. And all I did was talk about financial literacy. I talked about communications. I highlighted entrepreneurship. And every year I would go back, because they would hire someone, and people are asking, where's Orlando? Because I had the capacity to build the relationships with the organizations, and the people that they hired, although they were good at what it was that they did, I think that I had already cemented that relationship by way of first contact. And I would come back, and every year it was another opportunity to travel to more cities, and some of the same. But I did that, and it was more so for students and families. But that's where I sat back and realized that a lot of times, not only do students and families overthink things, business owners overthink things. And I realized the power of simplifying information, that if a principal or the director or the president of an organization came in and said, Orlando, you have 10 minutes, then I needed to figure out what and how I was going to maximize those 10 minutes with the words that were going to come out of my mouth. That goes back to my initial experience in college when I was doing the tribute speech.
And with that, being the fact that you've gone through all these different phases in your life, you've then co-founded several different companies. What are they, and how'd you get into each one?
Right. So the aspect of what I do with M&A Media, I launched that with my business partner, and actually I worked with him when we were at Sallie Mae, because after I left the position as the national spokesperson, I went into more of the they had a bilingual loan and outreach program, and it was all access. And from there, I went in and started processing a little bit of the aspect of, well, what do we do? We've marketed with a lot of companies. We've helped a lot of organizations help market their brand. So we launched M&A Media in 2010, and it was trying to figure out, how do we come in and help companies make an assessment? Because the word M&A, the reason why we picked the word M&A is the M&A is a Latin word that means to stand out, to be remarkable, to be conspicuous. And the E in M&A represents my business partner, Scott Eric Tubbs. And then the O is Orlando. And what's the middle word? Mine. And what are we? We're miners. So we come into your place of business, we excavate and find the hidden jewels within your business that you don't even know that exist when it comes to scaling, growing, and especially marketing. So we launched that, and in 2012, that's when we were trying to figure out what it was that we needed to do. And the aspect of marketing, a lot of people do their own marketing. A lot of businesses believe that their marketing is top notch, not understanding that it's bigger than that. It's not just about putting out nice little graphics. It's not about, putting a post. It's not about, commenting and doing a live. It's about creating an actual game plan and sticking to that game plan and figuring out what it is that you want to do. What happens with a lot of businesses, and this is why we started the company, is that marketing is an afterthought, and marketing should be front and center, because if people don't know that your business exists, then see you later, goodbye. People think they're going to scale their business by just getting more money and more money and more money. But I believe that if you're going to borrow money or get money, this is where you're going to actually have to start implementing. So we started the company. And then in 2012, going back to the aspect of college and university, we founded micro scholarships. And micro scholarships is it's a non-for-profit focus on working with college entrepreneurs to ensure that when they graduate, they not only graduate with a degree, but they graduate with a full-blown business. Why? Because the reality of it is that the degrees don't mean what they used to. That's why you see a lot of colleges and universities doing programs when it comes to entrepreneurship, because students are investing in a degree that they have to be very mindful of what it is that they're going to be investing in, because 9 out of 10 times they may be able to find a job in their specialization and they may not. But that's why we went in and realized that a lot of people need to tap into their God-given talents to start a business. So that's why we started the nonprofit. And what we do, we mentor, we select certain students to work with them to see their vision come to fruition. Because a lot of kids or a lot of students, they graduate with a degree and they're gung-ho, they're going to change the world. And then they realize nobody wants to hire them because they don't have the experience.
Well, with you, the reason your company works is you also have several degrees. You have one in communications, and then you got your master's in education. Why that transition to education? Is it because of like the way that communication led you to teach others how to, and then that's what transpired, or how'd that come about?
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to the aspect of I like being educated, but I like to educate as well, because as I said earlier, people tend to overthink. But where I sat back and realized the value was that when I went to do my master's, I was trying to figure out what is it that I do, and I got it in interdisciplinary arts, specifically at Nova Southeastern, and it was focused on designing a program that would meet my needs and the way that I think. I get bored easily. I did my master's in 9 months. I started in January in 2005 and finished in September, graduated the following year. But as I looked at it, what interested me was the different styles of learning. That a lot of times we don't give ourselves credit, because sometimes we may think, well, I'm not smart enough. No, everybody's smart. It's just identifying and tapping into your smarts and what is the best way that you learn. A lot of students in school, for me, if I wasn't challenged, I was already bored. And I realized that we needed to morph what it was that we were teaching. So if you were a visual learner, if you were auditory, if you're musically inclined, if you are mathematically inclined, everybody has a strength by way of learning. So what I did was that I wanted to gear myself more towards that route. And I sit back and look at the things that I do now. Even during that time, I designed my own curriculum, and I spent 3.5 years in Europe while I was doing my master's, or 3.5 months actually in Europe. And those 3.5 months in Europe, I was looking at the beauty of all these different locations that I was in, but I had a better understanding because I think that as individuals, we have more similarities than differences. And that's why I came in, and right off the bat, you and I, we get along because visually we see things differently, and visually we're visual learners. We look at things, we know what looks good, what doesn't look good. We can come in and in our facial expressions, you know when something looks like crap, and you're like, yeah, okay. But I think that that's where I love this avenue, because a lot of times I was looking at life, and I'll make a statement that some people will be offended, but it's all right. And I tell people, just because you have a title doesn't mean that you have the capacity to do the job.
Yes.
And I wanted to be able to have something that I could actually do by way of educating. And I honestly see a lot of people that have so much talent at what it is that they do, but they haven't found that right niche because they're not really exercising the way that they learn, and they're not really implementing it. I'm not a good test taker. Test bored me. And when it was multiple choice, in my head, I can convince why A, B, and C were the correct answer because of the way that I processed and eliminated things in my head. But I think that that's one of the key things that I do what I do because I love it. I look at a problem and I find a solution.
So how did you get involved with Espinosa cigars?
Well, the key thing is going back to the original story. My brother, when he launched, it's funny because as my brother, when my brother was starting, I envisioned different things because my brother has a bigger than life personality. My brother is one of my favorite people in the world, and I include that within my siblings, my sisters as well. But I think that my brother is extremely dynamic. So even before Espinosa Cigars I had already registered the domain. I had already started processing things and putting things in place for the purpose of. And then when and he and Eric decided to, because my nephew, listen, generation wise, my father and my brother and my nephew, it's like, you know what, three people that they emulate one another so much. But as I started processing, I just saw the bigger than life aspect of my brother's personality and how much people love him and how he is loved and how we love him. And it was more of a lending support, but also understanding that I got your back, because I think that that's the aspect of building the industry and building on a brand that the Espinosa. I mean, everybody wants to be an Espinosa, and it's okay. You can be an Espinosa because that's what we're here for. It's about family. It's about connecting. And this coming from a person, Jerome, that doesn't smoke. And it's not that I'm like I said, I am not against anything. I go with the flow, but I know that this is important to him, as he's important to me. My nephew is important to me. And this is what my parents instilled in us. And a lot of things that are done, they're done because of our experience. I mean, when you look at the Lazona Palooza is about family. It's about get together. It's about food. It's about the same thing that we used to do on a Sunday after we would leave church and come home. And my father had the domino table. We were playing games. We were listening to music. We were dancing. We were doing so many things that is the evolution. And I think that that's why, because family is important to us, we bring people in to be part of the Espinosa clan group because we value people. And the one thing that I will tell you is that what you're seeing is authenticity when it comes to all of us, because we genuinely care for people. I say the words that my brother normally doesn't say. We genuinely love people. We love the people that become part of our family. We love the people that have, supported what it is that he's doing. And when I see the support that he gets, of course, I'm going to be supporting them as well.
Yeah, you guys, the way your characteristics band with each other, it's fluid. Because I noticed that when it's you, your brother, your nephew, you guys, your fluidity is at all-time highs because you guys know how to change roles and you know how to deal with situations. Because, like, say for example, if Eric's upset at the moment and he can't deal with this person, you step up, you start having the conversation and developing that relationship so that when he is ready to step back in, he could take over, and then there's no intermission or anything of that nature, which is a beautiful thing. But and then you guys incorporate your extended family, with the sisters, the cousins, the nieces, the nephews, and the way the warehouse is ran, it's the same thing every day. You know what I mean? Somebody purchases food, we all sit down, we eat together, we communicate or whatever. Some people may not see eye to eye on certain subjects because the bravado-ness or the emotions get in the way, but then you guys find a way to hone all of that in to turn it into a product for the public to see, and they can consume and enjoy, which is, I think is one of the far best things about Espinosa cigars as a whole. Lazona Palooza to me is just a showcase of all the exuberant talent that you guys have, that you guys are just giving to other people. You know what I mean? Because every time you go there, you gain a lesson that you can take home to your family and utilize at your household as well. You know how many people now have cajachinas in middle of Ohio? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Or drinking their cafecito, or it's where we're bigger than that. And to your point, it's like you build relationships and you connect with people. And I connected to you through, Espinosa, through my family. And I think that that's where we come in, and you go there. What you are experiencing within Espinosa Cigars is authenticity. What you're experiencing from my brother is authenticity. What you're experiencing from Eric Jr. is authenticity. What you're experiencing from my dad, my mom, my sisters, myself, it's authenticity, because we genuinely like people and we meet people where they're at. That very few people have that capacity. We are grateful for the things that people do for us. We are grateful for the aspect of people being our spokesperson. Just because I was a spokesperson for Sally Mae years ago, it doesn't mean that I didn't have other people that were helping me do the things that I do. It's the same thing with my brother and the Espinosa family. We do what we do because of people like you and the people that listen to us. And listen, Chrissy, you know what? She's one of my favorite people, because I see the attention that she gives to my family, but it's because it's merited. And I believe, to your point, when you become family, you start picking up on habits. And what are some of those habits? Drinking Cuban coffee, drinking your cafecito, wanting to have some tostones, or wanting some white rice and black beans, or some pork, or the cajachina. I think that those are the other things that we need to start picking from each other, is that positiveness. It's the aspect of knowing that we're family, and it's understanding that you get a little piece of everybody. I remember a couple of years ago, I actually created a shirt, and I called it an Espinosa original. And the aspect of the shirts, the reason why we did the Espinosa, and I went in and I just started giving some of those, and yes, I have some for you as well. But the Espinosa original was what we look at ourselves. It's not that Espinosa, the name, hasn't existed for years, but it's the originality of what it is that we're bringing to the table, which is what we talked about earlier in our upbringing. My mother, different than what my father was in their upbringing, but how they've actually been married for 63 years, and understanding that there's two different people. My mother today, she's in church, and my father's at home. And then when she comes home, it's that connection that I think that we could connect more with people when we keep looking at our similarities and not our differences, because we focus too much on our differences. But culturally, we're island people. Culturally, we're coming here and we have more in common with our island brothers and sisters. And that's where I believe that the connection comes in, because we all came from somewhere, but we're all heading in the same direction, and everybody just wants a success. Now, we define it differently, but that's all that we want: a success, and to be loved and accepted, which is a good thing.
So utilizing your skill set, right? The skill set that you've developed over your natural born life, right? And then incorporating your education. How do you bring that? How do you bring that into the cigar industry, and what do you offer to the cigar industry as a whole?
Yeah, I think that it's very simple. I'm more resources. I understand. I remember last year when COVID hit and everything that we were going through. The one thing that I talked to my brother, I've got relationships. I have great relationships. And I remember last year we put together a CARES Act presentation. I remember it's a Saturday, and I brought the heavy hitters, my friends from the different organizations and government agencies. And we just did a workshop on the PPP and the EIDL loan. And we came in, and that's where I sat back and realized that, hey, the goal isn't to have these businesses close, because a lot of times businesses were closing. They weren't having the sales. They weren't having some of the things that they were doing, but it was coming in and needed those resources. I had a lot of people after we did that, and we just talked about what was out there, was available by way of the CARES Act. We did something different because nobody's done that. And I don't know of any other cigar company, that did that for their people, for their family. Because my biggest concern during COVID was, how many businesses are going to actually have to close because of the fear of the unknown? So we came in, we did that, and then started creating more things, because I have conversations with my brother, I have conversations with Eric, and I'm in the background, and that's okay, because I can be in the background. But we talked about, you know, having some live streams when it comes to, you know, last year that my brother popped up in a lot of Zoom meetings and a lot of Teams meeting, you know, and I'm laughing because I'm like, dude, I said, just use my account, just go in. And I popped in a lot of locations where they were just having conversations, because that's how we were discussing. And I've been using Zoom for years before it was a trend. But I think that that's one of the key things that I started realizing, that it's adding the humanity more so to what it was that needed to be done, and having my brother's face at the forefront, and having my nephew there to let the people that were struggling know that we care, that their hurts were our hurts, that their pinpoints, you know, at their pain was also part of it. And I think that within my brother and my nephew, I have a lot of conversations, and we have a lot of dialogue when it comes to the simplification, and a lot of things that they do. And the things that they do are the things that help us, that will empower us, because at the end of the day, why don't you just help people? And that's why at the background, listen, we talk marketing, we talk shop, we talk about ideas, we talk about certain things. But my thing is those are the conversations that I appreciate, because I don't have to be the spokesperson for Espinosa Cigars. Been there, done that. We have a family of people, that everybody that smokes Espinosa cigars, everybody that sells Espinosa cigars, those are our spokespersons.
Yeah. So speaking to you earlier, yeah, we were talking about how marketing works and the different aspects of marketing in itself, and how Espinosa has developed a family oriented marketing scheme that is not only instilled in the actual Espinosa quote unquote originals, but also in the Espinosa additionals, right? I'm gonna have to make a shirt, Espinosa additional. but with the Espinosa additionals, you guys have instilled the fact that, you know what, you are family, you know, and don't see it as anything else. And this is how you emerge yourself within the family, and this is how you grow the confines of Espinosa cigar as a whole. So looking at that, what do you think is like one of the some of the best things that you guys have incorporated over the pandemic, besides the Zoom meetings and besides the immersing yourself within these other audiences that you haven't reached before by jumping on these Zoom meetings? But and then obviously La Zona was online last year, so you got the opportunity to do over 100 people in one room, which was absolutely insane, you know, first of its kind. But now that you know, we've gotten over that initial hurdle of coronavirus and that the whole pandemic, how do you still now incorporate both the physical and the digital aspect within together and move forward, so that way no one feels left out? For example, the people who still can't travel due to health or medical conditions, how do you bring all those people together and still communicate what you've been communicating all these years?
Yeah, and I think that that's one of the key things. I mean, if you look at, you know what, even the Facebook group, there's a lot of communication where a lot of people are highlighting what it is that they do. And I do believe that if you look at everything, and every business has been evolving, the aspect of each and every one of us, what did we start doing last year was that a lot of people that had shops, they were having people place orders and come and have a drive-through and just pick up, you know what, whatever items they had, actually cigars they had bought. So I think that as you start looking at Espinosa, and the overall goal of what we want is to maintain those relationships, and a lot of ideas come in from conversations. A lot of ideas, when you look at Espinosa Elite, it was a conversation that Eric had. It's a passion that Eric Jr. had, of doing something that we can come in and feel special. So I think that as we started looking at the evolution of this, you know, next year there's going to be more in-person visits. Next year there's going to be more events. And I think that it's coming in and having a balance of that. Eventually we're going to have to create something that's a little bit more of a hybrid, that it may not just be the in-house person, face-to-face La Zona Palooza, but maybe the evolution might be that we might start having, little get-togethers that are going to be virtual and create something different from there because people want it, people need it. It's almost like people can't get enough. People can't get enough. Somebody once said this to me, and I don't know what it means, and I've been trying to figure it out, but I see it within my family. Someone once said to me that I had a very addictive personality. I don't know what that means. So and somebody says, Orlando, if we could figure out a way how to bottle the essence of your personality, we would be rich because everybody loves you. So I sit back and I try to figure that because I don't get it. But when I say,
what do you mean you don't get it? First of all, right, within your bio, right, the last statement within your bio, right, it basically says he's an unforgettable person. Once you meet him, you'll never forget him, right? So that is the essence of what they're speaking on, because what happened is you have one of those characteristics, and your charisma is one of those things that once you open your mouth, you have a conversation, you the key points, the notes, the every topic that you covered doesn't go unnoticed, and people grow off of that. Even me, myself, and I, the three of us, because I have to wear all the different hats together, right? I've learned a lot. Every conversation me and you have had together, we've never repeated the same conversation twice. That's the one thing I give you, and that I love. And then one thing that you showed me is that, yeah, when I get bored, I become creative, and we're two peas in a pod when it comes to that same instance. So we begin developing other things that will be unorthodox to some, but extremely ordinary to us, because we're like, you know what? I can learn that. I could do this. Let me go ahead and try. And then we just develop, i.e. this. This is this was born from La Zona Palooza, the digital version of 2020. I was vested with the idea of, because of coronavirus, we have to do this online. Yeah, we're not hiring a production team. Well, technically we are. We're hiring you, so you get it done. And then, i.e. La Zona Palooza. Yeah. And then it worked, you know what I mean? And what happened is, I love the way your family hones in on the how could I put it, on the key factors of the individual, and you grow that flower out of that concrete. You know what I mean? That rose grows out of concrete because you guys said that, I know it can be done. You know what I mean? And that's one of the most beautiful things about Espinosa, the family as a whole, and what you guys interject into the company, which then flourishes out into the public, and people thrive off of that. They grow off of it. I'm one of those individuals that I could say, that I've taken countless of notes between every family member, not just Eric, not just junior or senior or whatever like that, but every single person, from Hector, from Jack. Everybody has something to input, and it may be all on different spectrums, but if you are open-minded enough to listen, you're going to understand the totality of everything, and then you can incorporate it to where it form factors to you, so you can then grow and develop whatever it is that you're trying to do. And you guys don't lead people into a field. You just lead them into a direction, and they create the field.
Exactly. For me, listen, every obstacle is an opportunity for success. And one of the key things that we have found that within Espinosa is that your last name doesn't have to be Espinosa in order to be part of the family. Your last name, now if you want to go in and change it and hyphenate it or whatever, that's on you. But
your sisters are a little bit older than me, though.
You're right. But if you process that, it's about, to your point, a lot of us, what we do is everything evolves. So when you talk about some of the stuff that we did last year, and you just actually highlighted how this and the program and what it is that you're doing with the iconic Espinosa studio, it's understanding that everything has an origin, everything has a start, but you evolve. And how do you evolve? It's by looking at the trends and what are the desires of the people. If you look at Samsung, What does Samsung sell? They sell electronics, they sell smartphones, they do all of that. But if you look at the history of Samsung, Samsung started in 1938, I believe, in South Korea, and they were an import and export of fish, dry vegetables, and noodles. But look at how they evolved to where they're at now, and every company has to evolve or stay stagnant. Every company has to do different things and new things, because it's not just about selling a cigar. It's about selling an experience. It's about selling family and building that family and making people part of that family. And it's not selling family, literally. It's just that it's about that. People understand that when they come to Eric or Eric Jr. or my father, or myself, or my sisters, Minerva, Mai, then Mercy, I have to make mention of them, and then my nieces and nephews. It's an experience. We are a close-knit family, and no one's going to be able to. If we let you in, then you made it. If you are part of and have conversation, you have arrived, large and in charge. But it's because we're very close-knit, and we were, while growing up, a lot of people would come in and talk about, oh, you're elitist. That's why Espinosa elite, because it is. Sometimes we can be, but it's understanding that it's for life. It's not a temporary thing. But I think that a lot of times people don't understand that. And that's why when I said, about the aspect of personalities, my brother has a personality that people want more, because what they're doing and what they're seeing is something that's genuine and that's authentic, and it's not a show. So when I would stand on stage and talk about the things that I talk about, financial literacy, when I talk about business, when I talk about entrepreneurship, what you're getting is the authenticity of what my experience has been, so that you don't have to go through the same issues, problems. And I think that that's why we get along, because every conversation has been different, and we're trying to balance those relationships for our own personal growth.
So I'm going to put up a audience comment. This is from Leslie, the mail lady Cunningham, one of our especially our iconic smokers, and she says your charisma is amazing, and this is the first time seeing you and hearing you speak. So I mean, it goes to show that even when people haven't physically met you in person, just the ability to hear your voice and to hear your message, it instills a lot into them, and it develops people over time or whatever. Now, we have being the fact that obviously this show is encompassed around cigars and cigar smoking and that whole nature, right? You've been in this industry. I'm not going to say by choice, but you have been in this industry for a while now, and you have seen the development of all these different companies and the way they have grown over time, including Espinosa Cigars. If you had any suggestions for a person who would like to somewhat begin to immerse themselves in this type of environment, i.e. being like you, who is a non-smoker, what are some of the aspects that the cigar industry brings that is just calling a calling for other people who may not smoke? You know what I mean?
Right. I think it's really simple. Everybody has a product to sell or a service, one or the other or both. But where I sit back and look at, there's a lot of people within the industry, and I monitor the industry because you have to. And I look at a lot of people that are business owners, and a lot of them come in, and where we have to be mindful of that, even though Espinosa Cigars has some great ratings and it's been great by way of what they've experienced, business owners need to keep in mind that people buy from people that they trust and people that they like. And sometimes we don't want to show that level of vulnerability because we say, well, you know what? The smoke speaks for itself. Yes, it does. But imagine if you, as a business owner, are speaking on behalf of the smokes and letting people into the aspect of your vulnerability, the aspect of who you are. Everybody has a story. Why did you start your business? Why are you selling the specific product that you're selling? And the aspect of marketing is connecting to an audience and having the people that connect with you on a personal level, because yes, they're going to buy your product, but I work with people that I like. I buy from people that I like. And I think that that's where people need to come in and put their best foot forward. You see a lot of people that they're highlighting when they're getting on a plane, when they're going to go visit someone, when they're tagging other people and connecting that. But I love the aspect of when I look at other people that they're sharing a meal, when they're actually sharing a conversation, when they're talking about, and when I remember the cigar and my dad smoking, it was all based around the actual domino table and looking at him. And I think that that's where a lot of businesses need to get back to the basics, and not just the cigar industry, but in general, that when we as buyers are given an opportunity to speak on behalf of your brand because we believe in it, we love it, and we really like it, then it's going to become easier because now we have other people. It's not just one person that's promoting, it's many. And when they come in, so I always tell business owners, and specifically with the cigar industry, make an assessment of what it is that you're going to do, because you've already got the product or you're going to create the product. But what is it that you as an individual, and how are you going to attach yourself to that product? Because a lot of companies have scaled and grown because of that spokesperson, that face, that individual that brings that level of I guess humanness, because brands that show their human side are the brands that actually live in the mindset of the people that are buying.
Yeah, and that being said, it's a beautiful notion that the cigar is the, I'd say it's the icing on the cake, but it's not the beginning of the ingredients. You know what I mean? The ingredients begin with the construct of the company itself. It begins with the individuals that develop the company. That's why a lot of these companies don't thrive, because they do not put the essence of the the family orientation. And every company has some type of family orientation. Even UPS, you know, when you see that UPS versus FedEx versus USPS thing or whatever, right, versus Amazon, you don't realize that, but at the end of the day, in the back room, they're all working together. FedEx delivers Amazon products all the time, so UPS does the same thing, you know. So you guys, yeah, you have your little rivalries in a sense, but at the end of the day, you guys all work together to keep this particular field alive. And if you don't, then we wouldn't have these how do you call these guys, these lobbyists for cigar smoking. We wouldn't have all these different situations. These cigar bars exist on the idea that, you know what, this is a common place that we can come and develop even more ideas. It's not, I mean, at the end of the day, we don't sit there just to puff on a cigar for 45 minutes and walk out. You sit there for the conversation. You sit there for the interaction. You sit there to create that new friendship. And if companies take that same idea, that same construct, and they bring it back into the bigger scale of the manufacturing side, that's why even in when I went to Nicaragua with your brother and your nephew, I was able to see how even the workers are treated exactly like family. You know, there's no difference. Once you're in, you're committed. You know, I don't want to use the term mafia, but yeah, you're within. You become part, and that's it. You know what I mean? And there's, I mean, in this instance, in Espinosa cigar instance, I don't think you're ever going to walk away. Why? Because once you're here, you gain that understanding that this is for life. You know what I mean? They care about you for life. You know, from the day you walk in to the day you decide to leave, because you guys never really let people go. It's their belief that, you know, oh, they were wronged or whatever. If it happens, which I haven't seen it happen, but that's the only way somebody may say, okay, you know what, I no longer want to sit in this industry. But with that being said, I truly appreciate everything that you've done for not only Espinosa, but for people as a whole, that come to Espinosa Cigars. You know, that those 5 minutes, those 10 minutes that you give those individuals, they remember it. They're encapsulated by it. So it's a beautiful notion to know that somebody like you exists in this world, and you're continuing to help others grow, and not only in the sense of personal growth, but financial growth, business growth, and that's beautiful. You know, and I would love to continue seeing what you have to offer, because I know you develop new ideas every day and you bring us new ways of thinking on a daily basis. But hopefully I definitely like to do a part 2 and a part 3 of, like, looking at a business, even if we use Iconic Smoker as the example. How do I scale a business like mine? How do I develop and grow and everything like that? Yes, I have an idea of what I want to do, but it's always good to let an outside person come in and reconstruct the idea, because then that's what takes you from a $1,000 company to $1 million company. And
Yep.
I can't wait to. I've seen you do it with plenty of people. You actually do the monthly hostings where you bring corporate people together. Tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about that.
Well, one of the things is that I teach a class for the SBA, the U.S. Small Business Administration, the emerging leaders, and I work with them for 7 months, and it's about scaling and growing their business. And then what I started doing was that I started hosting a weekly what we call a chingwag, and it's a CEO chingwag, and chingwag is pretty much a British word for roundtable, but it's making an assessment and looking at it. And even though my minor is in psychology, I look at the aspect of how do you educate. So when we came out with L'Orange and Orange, and in psychology, everything has a meaning. So in colors, orange means adventure. When you look at adventure, you look at some of the top logos that have been created. So if you look at Home Depot, orange. You're going on an adventure. You're going to go and fix the pipes, and then you realize that you're not a plumber, so you have to hire a professional. Or you look at Nickelodeon, orange, adventure. So when we were coming up with that, and one of the things that my brother has always loved the Italian culture, the aspect of it. And when we did the lineage and all that and found out where we actually came from, but it's the aspect of, and I reminded him, I said, listen, I said, you're such an aficionado when it comes to Frank Sinatra. And Frank Sinatra always said that orange is the happiest color. So everything has an origination. Everything has to have a story. So when we started this dialogue, we started on a story of our upbringing, of the story of what it is that we, how we are and why we are the way that we are. So every brand has a story. Why did you start your business to begin with? And once you start sharing that story, that's where people want to hear something that resonates in something. So when you look at red, I wore red today because red means to take action. So when it comes to the aspect of the psychological aspect, and if you look at red, when it comes to fast food, Wendy's, Chick-fil-A, Kentucky Fried Chicken, pizza, all of those are because there's a psychological aspect of it. So a lot of the things that we do within the industry in Espinosa is looking at the psychological aspect of the studies and the tests that have been done, but not only implementing that, but also going back to the human nature of, and I think that being aware of oneself. I actually took a test once for my strength finders, and I looked at the top 5: belief, activator, and also adaptability, and a learner. I adapt to every situation. So once I understood that within myself, then that's how you have to understand your own business, because you know what you're capable of doing and not doing, and giving yourself permission to realize, oh my goodness, I don't have to do everything, because there are other people smarter than me that have the capacity, because they learn differently and they implement differently. And I would love to. I'm doing a workshop on Wednesday, focus on breathe life into your brand. And I'm going into all of that and how companies have spent what they've spent when it comes to their brand. And the Espinosa brand is about family. The Espinosa brand is about the people that become part of our family. It's not just about the smokes, because every cigar has a blend. Every cigar has different elements that come together, and that's okay. Some people like a certain blend, some people don't. But the actual process of that cigar is the marketing behind, and what's the story behind, and why it was designed and created for the smoking public. So once you add those elements, then people share the story themselves, and it's easier to sell something when people know the origination of why it was created.
Okay. That deserves a round of applause for sure. Because so my question, my final question to you, right? Okay, if and then what I'll do is I'll incorporate it within the show moving forward when I interview those people. If you had the opportunity to interview your brother and you had the opportunity to interview your nephew, what would be a question for each that you would ask them that you think that would actually get them to give you a real answer?
Oh my goodness. Listen, I get real answers all the time, but I have to be very mindful of the questions that I ask and keep it to where this is the first time that I think I'm at a loss for words, because I need to be very specific, because I already know the answers. I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure what it is that they're willing to share, because I see the elements of them in. Listen, Eric Jr. Go ahead.
So Eric Jr. is more an introvert. He's more reserved. He's you have to be very methodical in the questions that you ask him. With Senior, you have to be very he's an extrovert, but he's also calculating. So you have to be mindful in the way that you develop the question and you deliver it. So that's
exactly right. So my thing is also asking a question that I know that the comfort level is there, because that's another thing.
We're gonna keep it within cigars, right? Because obviously, if you ask Senior, hey, what's the 21 herbs and spices in Laranja, he's gonna tell you,
right.
Wait, hold on. You know what? As soon as you ask him, hey, Eric, what is the 21 herbs and spices in Laranja cigar? This is the statement that you're gonna get. Bro, get the fuck out of here.
bro. Yes. But I think that the one thing is very simple. Like for my brother, I would ask him the specific of the importance of why he started his business with his son.
Yeah. But we would have to develop that, because he's been asked that before. And he gives you an answer, right? But he doesn't give you the I'm speaking to JB answer or I'm speaking to Orlando answer. He gives you the public version of the answer.
Right? Exactly.
So it's conforming that question to be more personable. So you can understand why, Eric Senior says that my son is my best friend, right? That's the statement that he makes, right? He says that Junior is my best friend, and who else would I start a company with if it would not be with my best friend, right? And that the person that I can trust and everything like that, right? So then Junior's like, the only reason I'm in well, not the only reason, but one of the reasons I'm in this industry is because my father wanted me to develop this company with him. A lot of people don't understand that this is not a father-son business that was passed down. This is a father-son started business, like a mom and pop type of version. So I think for Junior, the question would be, being the fact that you and your father both opened the door together. How did you guys develop the company? How do you guys work together on a day-to-day basis, right? But on Senior, he's like, it'll be more of, since you work with your son, what are you willing to allow him to do, and what like, for example, in what strength are you allow him to capitalize on, right, while allowing him to take the forefront on those strengths.
So in essence, what you're looking for is one of those red table talks. You're looking for one of those emotional. It's like, all right. So let's do something. I think that maybe what we can. I know the answer, but my thing is, hey, let's have a chingwag. Let's have a CEO chingwag, and let's come in and let's have the rest of the Espinosa originals.
I think I'm going to I already see, like, my brain's already percolating, right? So I think what we should do, right? We need to have a show where we bring the both of them on and me and you interview them.
That's fine. That's fine. We can ask questions. I mean, and that's fine, because I know, that'll be great, because I already know the questions that I would ask. That's why I'm very cautious. But emotionally, listen, we're connected. Like, I'm connected to my. I love Eric Jr. and my brother. I love him as well. But we all have this connection. Like Eric and I, we love the aspect of something new. If it's a new candy bar, if it's something new that's chocolate, I am elated and ecstatic or any type of candy, chewy candy, I expect Eric to come in and send me a picture, or I'll send him a picture, or I'll buy new things, knowing that he's coming to my house because he and I share that passion. Now, once we've tried that, it's like, it's all right. Been there, done that. So those are the things that family to me is extremely important. It's valuable. Listen, and I love everybody that's saying that they love the beard and so forth. Just so you know, I grew this in a matter of a week and a half. So just so you know. But I do believe that whenever you want, I mean, we can definitely have a dialogue and a conversation and keep it very, very, it's going to be the same conversations that we have. We're extremely passionate about the things. My family is extremely important to them. They're important to me. And you hear me talk a lot about my nieces, my nephews. They're valuable because I pick a time to talk to all of them and converse with them. And my sister's the same way, and my parents the same. It's just that value that we realize that people are elated and ecstatic when we have a dialogue and a conversation, because we're very passionate. When we started talking, I remember when my friends would come around and we get really passionate about something, and they're like, "Are you mad?" I said, "No." I said, "We're having a conversation because we're passionate about this." And the one thing that I will tell you is very competitive. I mean, when we play games, I always used to have to be the bank for whatever, or the dealer, because we were very, very, very competitive to this day and age, as you know, siblings usually are. But we also we're also very jovial in that we just love to laugh at certain things. There's a game we used to play called Categories. And pretty much the way Categories is, you get the definition of something or a word. It's a word, and then you have to make up what that definition means. And it's just looking at faces. So I know when they would pick. So you get points if someone picks your definition for that word. So I laugh because all I had to do was look at my brother, and being number one, I knew who already had the right answer and who people were picking. But all I do was look at my brother, and I could see that little nervous smirk of his, because once it was done and people would pick his word or his definition, all you would hear is cha-ching, because that's how, when we play, and it's those games that we would get the kids involved. It's family. It's that family essence that we want people to see when they smoke the cigars, that you don't want to just smoke a cigar by yourself, an Espinosa cigar. You want to smoke that amongst friends and have a dialogue and a conversation and have in-depth conversations to where you get to know that person that you're smoking with.
So what I'll do is I'll work on it. I'll work on it. We'll see. We'll schedule a date, because I know all you guys are usually busy or whatever. But we'll schedule a date, and then me and you will interview the Espinosa senior and junior, and we'll see what they have to bring to the table, and we'll see what we can elicit. I'm gonna use the word elicit out of them for this show. So one person already says that they want in. So I think it's gonna be definitely one of those interesting ones. But how do people find you, brother?
Listen, I don't do a lot of social media, because I will be very candid and tell you that social media bores me, because I think that it tends to overthink. But communications, I'm on Facebook. They can connect with me on Facebook. Instagram, I post once in a while. So my handle on Instagram is Orlando in Miami. But the focus for me, it's more so this is what I appreciate, is dialogue, conversation. You can share my email if they want to email, if they want to have a dialogue conversation. And maybe what we can plan to do is have a meeting of the minds, and get some of your listeners that we just come in and just start having a conversation about their brand, their marketing, and what it is that they do. Okay. And just have a conversation. So I'm open to stuff like that. But yeah, that's pretty much the best way to just connect with me.
So for people watching, if you want to join in, what we'll do is we'll schedule it so where it'll be either a Sunday, or if we want to do it on a non-family day, then we'll do it like on maybe a Wednesday night or something like that. We'll figure it out. But
Yeah.
if you want in on the conversation, just drop a comment or shoot me a PM, or whatever the case may be. I'll add you to the list and we'll set it up. And then you can talk about your company. Orlando will tell you, he'll utilize his skill set to tell you a little bit about the direction that he sees where you're going, and then we'll create the conversation from there, and we'll grow it out from that standpoint.
Yep, sounds like a plan.
So that being said, I want to thank you, brother, for coming on the show. It's definitely been a pleasure. My digital counterpart here is going to be kicking me off in a few seconds, so I'm going to go ahead and let you go, and then I'll shut it off, and then we'll work on those two shows coming soon.
All right, sounds like a plan.
All right, brother. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Well, guys, there you have it. That is the show. I truly appreciate everybody who stuck around and watched. I hope you got some enjoyment out of this, being the fact that this was more of an educational aspect of the parties that we deal with on a regular, that I deal with on a regular basis, like Orlando Espinosa, who is one of those guys who is very knowledgeable, who is always at the forefront of developing small businesses and making sure that you have the ability to grow. And obviously you could see that his aspect of growing a business does work, because obviously that's how my business was able to grow. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys. Oh, and the guy who's the person who says nice bottle collection, it's getting there. It's getting there. We're gonna definitely start cracking them open, doing like a whole after hour thing coming soon. So we'll do some live events as well. So we can do some tastings, and we'll do some group tastings at that. So but I'm gonna let you guys go. If there's a local shop you'd like to hang out at, it'd definitely be this one right here. And before I shut out the show, I'll give you guys a quick preview of that shop, and then I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
I'm a man